Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Adam Schellhammer. He is with the Valley Conservation Council. Right. So something you don't really hear about a lot of. You guys have a low profile, I think, in some parts of the valley, but your previous executive director was here a couple years ago, John Hutchinson, and he has an interesting story to tell. So you're going to fill us up to date on what's happening for the last couple of years, and you are the new executive director.
Correct.
So first of all, tell us what the council does.
Awesome. Well, first thing, we'd like to change that profile, so elevate that ever so slightly. We don't want to be the best kept secret anyway. So we're a land trust. So we put land under easement, and we try to purchase land outright to protect for future enjoyment and production. So right now we're focused on any lands that are agricultural production or open space that could improve water quality.
Right. I think when John was here, there was some areas around here they were working on some land that they were doing that too, and it was interesting. It was like in your backyard, and didn't even realize it.
No. And we've got a few easements underway now, and I think we've got 28 active projects. And so I think if we close on all 28 projects, that'll be about 18,000 acres this year closed for conservation. And so we have an 11 county service area. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much all of Western Virginia. And so that's all the 11 counties of the Shenandoah Valley, which is a pretty cool place to be working to protect.
Sure. So why would someone want to do that?
Well, we're lucky enough to be in this part of the state. We have a ton of thriving agricultural communities. And as you know, there's a lot of intense development pressure that's occurring up and down the valley. And one thing that we can offer as a land trust is there's some interesting tax credits you can get for preserving your land.
Sure.
So not only do you get that tax break, but also we know that we're preserving productive farmland forever. And as development spreads, not that smart development isn't a good and necessary thing, but we're going to need farmland. We all need food. We all need to eat. So I think one thing that we're focusing on, and I think through the last 2 years of COVID, food security is of paramount concern. So I think we have a really cool and unique opportunity to really help provide food security for a heck of a lot of people.
We think about just these big corporate farmers. We think they're just putting on hundreds of thousands of acres, but we get so much from small farms.
Absolutely, and the more local, the better, because you're providing income and support for your neighbors.
Right.
So it's pretty cool when the farmers are on a smaller scale, and it's something because they're connected with the land, and as we help protect that land, it's kind of like the community becomes connected with that land.
Sure.
So I think that's one of our missions too, is reconnecting people with the landscape. And whether you're visiting here, whether you're on vacation, whether you live in one of the urban areas, you drive around, you just look at magnificent beauty and it's awesome rivers and farms.
You think it's always going to be that way,
no.
but it's not if we don't take care of it.
No, I mean, look, I grew up in southeastern PA, and we had quite a few farms around us that got sold off for development. That was their retirement fund option.
Sure.
And so I went from having some nice farmland behind us and some bass ponds to about 400 houses in a new subdivision. So that was a bit
what happens is the husband and wife or mother and father die off, and the kids kind of went, they were doing the right thing by sending them to college, right?
Yeah.
And then he come back and said, we don't want to be farmers.
No, it's a tough one. And sometimes that is the retirement plan.
Sure.
So I think what we're trying to do is offer other incentives to keep that land in production. And we know that's a huge driver for people.
Right.
So we're trying to address the economic drivers of it. And through some of our programs, that's what we're able to do.
We had just started a community farmers market here last week, and we went and interviewed 3 of the farms that showed up, and they're, again, same thing.
Yep.
One, it's just a husband and wife, has 20-some acres, and they started off with some chickens, and now they got pigs and goats and everything else, and they're doing, their thing is they're doing, they're training and showing you, they'll bring the pig to your house and butcher it and show you how to do it.
How to do it.
Yeah, and so and they're the same way. They weren't raised as on a farm, but they just somehow got the aha moment, that they wanted to do that. And then another lady, she had a flower farm, and they're growing these flowers by the acre. So it just seems, we don't realize all the things to do. Another one had goat cheese, and they're milking goats, and they, it's all that is what you're talking about is keeping these farmers, and then and I'm telling you, that fresh goat cheese is really good.
It is delicious. I mean, there's nothing, you can't go wrong with fresh dairy.
Yeah, fresh, or the poultry they're raising. Actually, we think about eggs, but they're raising poultry to meat birds they call them, and it's just an interesting thing how this is like right in our own backyard, right here in Warren County. Of course, you got a little larger area that you're handling, but you're seeing this up and down the valley.
Absolutely. To Northern Virginia, the South, it's kind of the same story. And again, the area I grew up in was a similar story. Unfortunately, that farming area was kind of past its prime, so you started to see a little bit of depression around that. But here, it's still such a vibrant community.
Right.
And I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of, even though there's some farms that the younger folks don't want to come back and work, there's a lot of folks, younger generations that are wanting to get into farming. I don't know if I feel like there's an emptiness, like they missed out on that connection to the land, and now they're starting to they get a taste of it.
Right.
They're like, man, I can produce my own food. We can work with this farm, and it's a community around it.
Right. Well, right here in Warren County, I'm not sure, I can't recall the name of the organization, but it's a national homesteading organization, and there's a lot of that, back to Mother Earth, kind of movement.
Yeah.
And they come right here to Warren County because of the diversity of our farmland, and there's so many people are into that.
Yep.
And thousands of people show up to this thing, and it's just a neat thing.
It is. It's cool. There's enough room for everybody. So the families that have been farming for generations have so much to teach the younger generations, and there's cool stuff the younger generations are doing that, I think there's a lot of information sharing going on, and I just think it's an amazingly unique area where
and they're bringing
it's
some
all
high
working.
tech sometimes into farming.
A little bit, and then sometimes they're dusting off techniques that have been lost for a century or so.
Exactly.
After industrial ag, there was some stuff that worked really well we don't do anymore, and they're kind of finding, wow, this stuff still works.
It didn't really work. Sometimes it worked a little better.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So how does someone go about thinking about conserving their land?
It depends. So if you're working in our geographic area, we do have a lot of partners in this area as well that do the same thing. But there's a lot of folks you can reach out to, either my organization or one of our partners, and just start a conversation. You can say, I don't know much about it, but I want to make sure my land is protected forever. Right. And we can help look at what option makes sense for them.
Right.
And some of us have different criteria, what we're looking for. But if you have a strong desire to protect your land for future enjoyment and protection of ag land or water quality improvements, we'll help find a solution for you.
So what's just off the top of my head here, I'm thinking, what are some of the more unique things that you've seen that people are protected here? I mean, just curious.
Nope. There's aside from some of the cool just waterways, there's a lot of river and stream in this valley.
Right.
And so I'm a freshwater nut, so I think that's what I'm drawn to. But over in Highland County, there's some really unique habitat where they've got some cool looking neon blue crayfish. There's in the same area, they've got a bog habitat that's not usually found this far south. It's usually up in Canada.
Right.
And there's only a handful of places where that kind of landscape exists.
Right there in our backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And you've just got
you can't pick those things up and move them somewhere else either.
No, you can't recreate that. They exist there because it's the perfect existence for that thing.
Right.
So no, and that's when it's really special. But you've got landowners have had the land forever, families have had the land forever.
They want to keep it in their family.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think what we also try to encourage is we know there's a lot of interest in living out this way. So, we also want to...
we're moving out here like crazy.
Yep. So we want to advocate for smart growth in our urban areas. That way we make the most of these small town communities and build out from, hubs like Front Royal or Stanton or Waynesboro and Harrisonburg. And, how do you build in such a way that you don't have an impact, but also you get to protect all that awesome farmland and forest land on your backyard.
Right. Instead of we get rid of our sprawl, that's what happens to city. They just keep going this way.
So that's the key. Just how do we limit the sprawl and, welcome everybody in and just do it in such a way that everybody's got a bit of what they're looking for.
Well, it sounds like you got your work cut out for you.
We do, but we've got a great board of directors. We've got an awesome staff, and there's a huge number of awesome partners, and our donors and supporters in the valley are just amazing. So,
well, what we're going to do is we're going to put your web address and your contact information here below the video. People have an interest in conserving their property,
Yep.
their land for future generations. They'll get in touch with you.
That would be fantastic. Would be happy to come out and talk to you and take a look at your land, and that would be very
You
exciting.
got to start a conversation. It may
That's it.
not be for you.
No.
You may have some unique thing that won't work, but
Yep.
maybe you're the ideal customer. You just don't know.
No, and we work with other state agencies as well. So if you're interested in restoring your land or you got waterways you want protected, we can help connect you to the right resources. So
Right.
whether it's us or somebody else, we'll try to be a hub for information one way or the other, and just support the community any way we can.
What I always say is, if you can't do it, you know a guy.
That's pretty much. We got a guy for about we got a guy or gal for just about everything.
Yeah, it's
So,
great. Well,
yeah.
we appreciate your role and the things that you do in our community to keep it the way, we came here because we fell in love with these communities, and we really, like we say, not in our backyard. We don't want the big factories, and we need work and
Yep.
jobs, but
Yep.
we want to have controlled growth and controlled things and jobs and things that kind of fit our unique lifestyle.
Exactly. It's a
we
pretty
don't-
special place.
We don't want to turn it into another Northern Virginia, but
Well, I mean,
and that happens because people are migrating.
Yeah.
It's funny, people will move from the city because they want to get out of that, and then they end up 5 years later, they bring it with them because, they're just kind of, that's all they know.
I mean, you're drawn to it. Like you said,
Yeah.
you look around, you just drive down the road, and you're
Yeah.
like, man, I want to be here.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
I know people do it, but
Yep.
leave all that other stuff behind when you come. And,
come out, enjoy the landscape for what it is. Why
Yeah,
you keep
yeah.
it why you like it that way.
yeah, you mentioned you have a large family, so you live on a farm.
No. I'd never call myself a farmer. But I worked farms, so I was either throwing hay or fixing fence posts. So
That's kind of like the thing you do, isn't it?
yeah, pretty much. Get through high school and
Chasing the
college and all
cows,
that. That's
chasing the
it.
cows when they tear the fence down.
Yep. There's the horse that gets loose, or the paddock needs the stones removed. So I'm your guy for that. So I was not a farmer. I was a grunt.
When you drive down some of these roads, you see these stone fences that were built back in the Civil
Yep.
War period. I mean, that was all rocks that came out of the field.
Yeah.
And I don't know who did the work, but there's no mortar, but they are just a straight
Just
down.
perfect.
Isn't that
Just beautiful.
Isn't that fantastic
And they're
how they
still
did
standing.
that? That's
Yep.
a skill that is just gone. I mean,
No, you pay the right person that does masonry now.
there's a few
yeah.
guys that can do it,
You
but
pay
again,
handsomely for that
but
expertise.
and that was all just like you said, people picking them rocks
Yeah.
up and clearing the field.
If you had to work the field either for crops or for grazing, you had to get the
get the rocks out of there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do? You just build a
Build a
fence.
fence.
It's pretty
It's
cool.
great.
Yep.
Well, Adam, thanks again for
Yeah,
driving
my-
up here. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for taking
coming
the time.
talking to us. But keep us informed. Keep sending us stuff that is going on in our community. We'll be glad to get the word out. And
That's
again,
fantastic.
If you have a farm and you want to preserve it, get a hold of Adam here. Their organization.
Yep.
They're the place to at least start a conversation.
That sounds fantastic.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.